Broncos select defensive back Jahdae Barron out of Texas, and we are joined by defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski from the University of Texas. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Coach,
how y'all doing?
We're doing great, Coach K. Appreciate you joining us. For our listeners, we have some Boise State ties in our past, which is a lot of fun to see your face. And congratulations, Coach, on all your success at the University of Texas. It was a joy to watch your team play this year. Tell us all a little bit about Jahdae, and that's the way it's pronounced, correct? It's Jahdae Barron.
Jahdae, yeah, Jahdae Barron. Yeah, Jahdae is, he was obviously a very productive player for us, but what really stood out for his football IQ, right, and his work ethic as far as learning the defense, the techniques, the passion for football. He wanted to be the best DB he could possibly be, and he puts the work in. Obviously on the field, but really he does a lot of work behind the scenes, off the field, watching video, picking the coaches' brains, and just wearing us out as far as his prep for all the opponents that we played last year.
Coach, there's been a word used around these parts offensively with Sean Payton and his offense that he's always in search of a joker, a player on the offensive side of the ball that can wear a bunch of hats. And sometimes it's a running back that can line up as a receiver, a tight end. It's a real two-way guy, as a blocker, and a guy that can stretch the field in the pass game. Sounds like Jahdae Barron playing in your star position at the University of Texas in your scheme. It's almost a defensive-minded joker. Tell us a little bit about what the star role does and what that is in terms of being able to project to the National Football League and wearing a lot of different hats.
Yeah, so the star is a lot of people call it the nickel. He's the when we go nickel, we take a big D lineman out and bring in another DB. So we have 5 DBs on the field, and the star plays over the slot. So he's a guy that has to play man coverage on the slot. He has to be able to blitz. He has to be able to play the run game in the box like a linebacker. Certain calls, he's got to go back and play a half or play a post. The way we cover down and spin motions. So he is he's got to wear a lot of different hats. And then the other part of it, he's got to be obviously super smart and have a high football IQ to be able to communicate our adjustments and what we're going to do to the splits, the formations, to the linebackers, and he's got a high football IQ, and he works at it, and he loves that part of the game, the strategy part of the game, and he's got a really awesome football feel, right? And he got good instincts. He knows when to take calculated risk and when not to, and that's why it was so productive for us.
It seems as though Sean Payton does gravitate towards those players who are football junkies, football nerds, and Jahdae, I suppose how you are illustrating him right now is one of those football nerds. Did you guys have any conversations with Sean Payton, with George Payton, about Jahdae possibly being a fit here in Denver? Because honestly, if you looked over 500 different mock drafts, this was one that caught us by surprise. Maybe he slipped just a little bit farther. Were the Broncos in contact with you guys throughout the process?
Not with me. I talked with Brian Stark, one of their scouts, about him, but not nobody. None of the coaches or personnel people other than Brian.
What was your elevator pitch to Brian?
Just what I just said, how I described him. He's a great dude, very confident, right? Very confident in his ability. So that's good because those guys are put on islands a lot, and they're not going to always be when they make a mistake or they give up a play, right? You got to have you got to have a short memory. You got to move on, and his confidence helps him deal with that, and also it also helps him, when the week after, right? Like he's a guy that wants to know what he needs to fix, what he needs to correct, and so he can go to work making those changes.
We're joined by University of Texas defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski. And Coach K, when you look at this stat that came out last night, through 22 picks of the NFL draft, 18 of those 22 were players that never entered the portal. I thought that was a remarkable statistic. And you look at Jahdae Barron, a guy that grew up locally in Austin, Texas, born in Corpus Christi, but spent his entire career as a Texas Longhorn. What does that say about his character, his loyalty, and seeing something through in a time where not many do?
Yeah, I think that's a combination of him, and then also, this portal era. A lot of the times, these young guys and family or whoever they're talking to, they get short-sighted with these decisions that they're making. Whether they're chasing the dollar or not, I don't know. But when you hop around, you're now learning a whole new culture. You're learning about new teammates, new staff, how everybody operates, new terminology, new scheme, and so new techniques. And so that, to me, that stunts these guys' growth when they're hopping around like some of these guys do. And that was an interesting stat you just said. The guy, would you say 18 of them?
18 of the first 22 picks. Yeah. That include Jahdae.
So they stayed where they're at, and they were getting developed, and proof's in the pudding right there. And so I think there's a lot to be said about staying somewhere, grinding through the tough times, learning, growing, and striving to get better. Which when you're changing scenery and changing voices and changing terminologies, it can stunt that growth.
Pete Kwiatkowski, defensive coordinator for the Texas Longhorns, our guest on the Ramos Law Hotline right now. Typically when we have, defensive coaches on, we're kind of slotted to talk about defensive players. Obviously, Jahdae coming in the first round for the Broncos. There's another Texas Longhorn that I have my eye on somewhere in the second or the third round. He's on the other side of the ball. What terrifies defensive coordinators about Gunnar Helm?
Yeah, Gunnar. There was a perfect example of a guy that came in and stuck it out, stayed at the same school the whole time, and developed, played behind a really good tight end a couple years ago that got drafted, and then really came into his own last year as a senior. And he's tough. He's willing to mix it up in the run game, and he became a threat in the pass game. Really good hands, and was surprisingly really productive with the ball in his hands after the catch. And so, that's just whoever gets him is going to get a guy that's going to great dude, great team guy, and he's going to put the work in, and he's going to be a unselfish player for whoever gets him.
Our hope is that he's here in Denver. Coach Pete Kwiatkowski, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, Broncos select Jahdae Barron, defensive back out of Texas, comes with glowing reviews from his DC. Coach, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Pete Kwiatkowski out of Texas, formerly Boise State, ties there with you, Coach Sanford.